Okay, so moving on to Unit 5. In the past unit, we practiced finding slope and your y-intercept. In this unit, you're going to be using that information to write an equation for the line that contains the given points. So we're going to start off the same way. We have a table. We're going to pick 2 sets of points, and we're going to find slope. And we do that by taking y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. I'm going to take the larger y value first. Remember, it doesn't matter what order you put these in as long as you're pairing your x and y correctly. So because I took the 450 first on the top, I need to do the 25 first on the bottom. Sorry about that. For some reason, it flipped it upside down. So we have 450 minus 195 over 25 minus 10. You're going to plug this into alpha y equals. I'm doing it by hand, so I'm going to have to reduce. And I have a slope of 17. Now, remember you made your foldable that says y equals mx plus b. Look at your foldable and determine what letter we use to represent slope. You will have learned this in previous years. We use the letter M to determine slope. Okay, so there are 2 ways to work backwards to find your stat, or to find your y-intercept. You can use stat edit, or you can work backwards. So you'll plug this in to stat edit. Your x values in L1, your y values in L2, and then you'll hit stat calc 4. This should all be pretty familiar to you. So go ahead and type that in now. And when you finish with stat calc 4, you find that your y-intercept is 25. So now, what we're going to do to create our equation, remember it is y equals mx plus b. We're going to plug our slope in to this first set of parentheses and our y-intercept into our second set of parentheses. So now you have, instead of y equals mx plus b, you have y equals 17x plus 25. Okay, so let's do the same thing on this side. Again, we're going to find our slope by choosing 2 points and plugging them into the slope formula, y minus y over x minus x. Again, I'm going to pick my larger y value because it's more likely to keep all the information positive while I'm working through it. So I have 864 minus 360. And that's going to be over, because I chose to do 864 first, I need to make sure I use my 12 first. And that's going to be subtracting 5. You're going to plug this into alpha y equals. I'm doing it by hand, so I'm going to have to reduce at the end. And this reduces to 72. So my slope is 72. And again, what letter do we use to represent slope? M. So now we need to find our y-intercept. You can do that by plugging your table into stat edit, or you can work backwards. And again, the letter we use for y-intercept is B. So go ahead and plug that into stat edit. When you finish doing that, you find that the y value on your y-intercept is 0. What we need to keep in mind is that the y-intercept is a point, and points always have two numbers. So when we're putting this into our equation, again, our slope value goes into that first set of parentheses. And when you're looking at this y-intercept to determine what number goes here, is we're going to look at the number that is our y value on the y-intercept, and that's the number that goes here. So in this case, it is plus 0. Okay, so let's move down and look at writing the equation for two graphs. So the first thing we need to do is we need to determine 2 points on this line. So here I have, we'll call this 10, 16. We'll round a little. I have the points 10, 16. And this point here is going to be 30, 24. So we're going to take y minus y over x minus x to find our slope. So we have 24 minus 16 over 30 minus 10. Go ahead and plug that into alpha y equals in your calculator. Again, I'm working by hand, so I'll have to reduce. So the slope of my line is 2/5. And again, the letter I use is M. Who remembers how we find the y-intercept of a line on a graph? We look to see where that line crosses our y-axis. This here is the y-axis. And this appears to pass between those 2 points. Here we have 8, we have 16. Halfway between that mark, we're counting by 4s based on this line here. So we have 8, 4 more than 8 is 12. Halfway between 8 and 12 would be 0, 10. Remember, this is estimating on a graph, something you've learned to do in previous years. And again, what letter do we use to represent the y-intercept? B. So, in order to make our equation, we're going to take our slope, plug it into this first set of parentheses here, 2 over 5, and we're going to look at the y value of our y-intercept, which is 10. And this value is going to get plugged in for our second set of parentheses. So now we have y equals 2/5 x plus 10. This is the linear equation that describes this line right here. If you were to continue plugging this in, you'd be able to plot even more points on this line if your graph was larger. Let's take a look at this one. First, we're going to pick 2 points. Here we have 5, 6. And at this point, we have 10, 12. Again, y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2. It doesn't matter which y you put first, as long as you pair your x accordingly. So I'm going to say 12 minus 6 over 10 minus 5. Remember, I put my 12 first, so my 10 on my x has to come first. You can plug this into alpha y equals. Again, I'm going to be doing it by hand, so I'll have to reduce. For our slope, we have 6/5. Again, the letter we use for slope is m. We're going to find where our graphed line crosses our y-axis, which is this point right here. So our y-intercept is 0, 0. And the letter we use for y-intercept is b. We're going to plug our values into our parentheses. Slope goes in between your y equals and your x. So we have y equals 6/5 x. We need to look at our y value on our y-intercept. And we're going to plug that in right here in our second set of parentheses, which gives us y equals 5/6 x plus 0. Okay, and here at the bottom of the anchor chart, you have 2 problems. And I'd like you to work those 2 problems on your own. And there are some problems on the back for you to practice writing your linear equation